Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to the digital environment. I'm Young, and today we are breaking down how different platforms covered the US government shutdown news. With me is Dr. Peter Choi, a medical doctor with decades at IDE. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Young. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here and ready to dive into it.
Okay, Peter, I'm sorry. Quick plan for listeners. We will give a short summary of the story, say why it grabbed our attention, compare what we each saw on our feeds, point out red flags, and end with simple tips for checking breaking news.
Absolutely. That sounds like a great plan.
Okay, so the story we tracked was the shutdown threat and the funding deadline. I first saw it this no, actually last October 1st morning uh, on my news application, like a big breaking banner, red badge. The gist was Congress faced a deadline with talk about a continuing resolution to keep the government open.
Exactly. Right. And from my side, right. So that really sets the stage. We've got this big headline moment, and it's interesting to see how it all unfolded across different platforms. Let's dive into that.
Okay, this matched what we are being learning. The signifiers like red banners and urgent labels pull our attention fast, and avoidance like a big tap target make it easy to dive in.
Absolutely. Exactly. And it's fascinating how those little design choices really guide us without us even realizing it. So, yeah, it's a perfect example of what we've been talking about.
And we used our own devices and our normal feeds. I checked the fast feed like X, Twitter, and community space like Reddit, YouTube on official.gov resources and a long form outlet like Reuters or a major paper.
Exactly. And I did pretty much the same. I used my usual platforms, and it was really interesting to see how each one framed the story a bit differently. It definitely gave us a lot to compare.
That links to our textbook point on attention. Short posts create urgency, longer pieces add context. Both shape how we understand the same story.
Absolutely. And that's a great connection. Those short posts definitely crank up the urgency, while the longer pieces really help us slow down and see the bigger picture. So both definitely shape how we end up understanding the same news in different ways.
Right. On the fast feed, the, oh my bad. So, right, right. The same for me. In the community space, I saw explainers and hot takes. Some focused on blame, others on process or market impact. It felt louder, but not always clear.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And I noticed something similar. There was definitely more noise and quick opinions in those community spaces, but it wasn't always easy to get a clear picture. It's interesting how each type of platform gives us a different flavor of the same story.
Right. The long form piece did the best job of showing what happened first, what changed, and what was still unknown. That unknowns box really helped.
Absolutely. I completely agree. That kind of thorough summary really helps put everything in perspective and gives us a clearer sense of the whole situation. It definitely shows how useful those longer pieces can be.
So did you notify did you notice the red flags like headlines, old clips, uh, cropped screenshots, or posts saying like reports say with no link, something like that?
Absolutely. I did notice those. Those kinds of red flags really stood out, like when a headline was a lot more sensational than the actual content, or when there were old clips being reused without context. It's definitely a reminder to double check and look for reliable sources.
Okay. Then how we verify?
Well, one way we verified was by checking multiple reliable sources and making sure at least two trustworthy outlets confirmed the same detail. We also looked at official sources for timestamps and checked the original context of any images or clips. Basically, a quick cross check and making sure we weren't just relying on one source helped us feel more confident.
So additionally, we verified we checked official accounts and status pages, matched timestamps across posts, looked for two solid outlets saying the same thing. We did quick image or video checks like a date and the sources. And then lastly, we watched for corrections or update sections. You agree or remember?
Absolutely. I completely agree. And that's exactly what we did. Checking those official accounts, matching timestamps, and looking for consistent details across at least a couple of trustworthy sources definitely helped us feel confident. And of course, keeping an eye out for corrections or updates is always a good idea.
Yeah. So let's move on to the act four, the same story, different feeds. So my feed pushed the angle like a shutdown likely or market zero or something like it said deal closed. So the probably because I follow like politics or economy reporters.
Exactly. And on my end, my feed had a slightly different angle, maybe because of the types of sources I usually follow. It's interesting how the same story can look a bit different depending on who's curating the content for you. It really shows how those personal algorithms shape our perspectives.
And that shapes our mood and our sense of risk.
Absolutely. It really does. It's interesting how what we see can shape how we feel about the whole situation. So it's a good reminder to be aware of that and try to look at a variety of perspectives.
Sure. So Act 5, the bias, format, and simple tips. So we're going to touch that topic. So bias check for me was, I believed, uh, a claim fast because it fit my prior belief. Like waiting for a second source helped me cool down.
Absolutely. And that's a really good point. It's so easy to latch onto something that matches what we already think, and just pausing to get that second source can really help balance it out. So, yeah, being aware of our own biases and just taking that extra moment is definitely a simple but powerful tip.
Let's give listeners a quick checklist.
Absolutely. Let's do that. So, here's a quick checklist for everyone. First, always double check at least two reliable sources before you fully believe a breaking story. Second, watch out for those red flags like sensational headlines or old clips out of context. And finally, take a moment to recognize your own biases and let that guide you to look for a second perspective.
And watch the signifiers like red breaking labels, push alerts, countdown clocks. Notice them, but don't let them drive you.
Absolutely, exactly. Keep an eye on those signifiers, things like the red braking labels and countdown clocks. Just notice them, but try not to let them control your reaction. It's all about staying aware and balanced.
That's so true. So let's closing up. So, mm, how do you think of what we did today, and then what was the your thought?
Absolutely. So, just to wrap things up, I think what we did today was a great deep dive into how different platforms shape the news we see and how we can be more mindful about it. My thought is it's really valuable to stay curious and always double check what we're reading. This way, we can navigate the digital world a bit more confidently. Thanks for the great conversation.
Absolutely. Try our two source rule on the next breaking story and write your know or don't know lines, then see if your view changes.
Absolutely. That's a perfect takeaway. So, next time there's a breaking story, just try using that two source rule and jotting down what you know and don't know. It's a simple step, but it can really change how you see things. Thanks for a great chat.
All right, this is all we got today. So this is the digital environment. I'm Young.
And I'm Peter. Thanks so much for listening to our first episode. We hope you found it helpful and got a few tips for navigating the digital news world. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in and take care.